Now, Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador is heading to Washington to meet with President Trump to protect the trade relationship with the U.S. as Mexico faces deep recession. Joining us now is Baltic Head of Research and Strategy, Kathryn Rooney Vera. Kathryn, before we get to the relationship between AMLO and President Trump, tell us about how coronavirus is ravaging the Mexican economy and how bad you anticipate it will get.
Ravaging is a good word, Vani, and Mexico is facing the real brunt of the coronavirus epidemic. The authorities have really not come up to the task, and they were non-believers at the very beginning, which has caused tremendous suffering. Now, we know that 50% of the tests that are taken come out positive in Mexico, which is a world leader. That said, there aren't enough tests, so they only test those with clear symptoms. So I would say that the bottom line here, Bonnie, is that Mexico is going to be one of the countries that most suffers alongside of Brazil, and we're expecting an economic contraction at a minimum of 8% for 2020.
What's behind the change in heart on the part of AMLO? He has suddenly opened his heart to President Donald Trump and seems to want an actual relationship.
I wouldn't call it a change of heart. Since he became president, he's been remarkably amicable in his relationship. So, he wrote the book "Oye Trump" or "Listen Up Trump," and so from there, I would say, before he was president, he was very aggressive with regard to President Trump. But since becoming president, I think the truth hit him hard, which was that the commercial relationship is so critical to Mexico. More than $600 billion last year alone for the commercial relationship between U.S. and Mexico. They share a border and always will. 80% of Mexican manufacturing is directly attached to the U.S. relationship. So I think that they are not just frenemies. They are compadres. They are very, very close at this point, and that has been evidenced in many things, from Mexico stepping up to the plate with regard to, the caravan issue at the border, to Mexico stepping up to the plate with regard to cracking down on drug cartels after that American family was killed in Mexico. There's just so many examples of real working together and resolution and problem solving between the two presidents.
Kathryn, what do you imagine we'll hear today? I mean, the USMCA has taken effect. Do we get any developments, or will it just be, a kind message from each president to their own peoples?
I think that Trump is going to put lavish praise on AMLO because of his help with regard to, sending 27,000 National Guardsmen to the border after Trump threatened that 5% import tax on Mexican exports to the U.S. So I think we'll hear that. USMCA is unequivocally a success for both sides, so I think we'll hear some mutual praise on that trade agreement. The fact is, Bonnie, we have to take into consideration here, too, that AMLO does care about his popularity. It's been slumping since he took office. He faces midterm elections next year, so this could actually behoove both presidents to have this meeting. We know that about 60% of Mexicans are in favor of the two presidents meeting. And the fact is, Mexico is in economic contraction. So AMLO needs a little bit of a boost, and Trump could definitely use it going into the November 3rd presidential election.
So there's a meeting at 2, a joint message at 3:30 with no questions, apparently, at least no questions foreseen from the press. And then there's a dinner at 6:35, or after a brief statement at 6:35, which includes businessmen. Is there the possibility of expanding the relationship trade-wise now that USMCA has already taken root, or is this just a sort of an opener, a way for businessmen to sort of come to the United States and get to know Donald Trump?
I think it's more of the latter. I mean, there are 10 of the most important businessmen from Mexico are accompanying the President López Obrador to visit President Trump. So they should be 100% aligned, the Mexican government with the top businessmen of the country. So I think this is the beginning of a new relationship. There is definitely room for additional cooperation, for example, on the energy front. Whether that's going to be discussed, I doubt it. But Pemex is bleeding cash. Pemex, of course, being the national oil-producing company. FDI has plummeted year over year since AMLO came into power. So there are definitely room to maneuver and places to negotiate. But I don't think that's what's going to be happening today, Bonnie.
Kathryn, AMLO has not exactly been dealing all that well with the pandemic. In places, yes, but very definitely sort of falling down on the job in other places. Too many deaths, really, and perhaps not enough hospital capacity.
Right.
What happens there, and will he reap his so-called reward at the ballot box?
Yeah, well, those midterm elections could be very ugly for him, Bonnie. As I mentioned, the economic contraction has been quite severe. Last year, the economy contracted 1.2%. We're expecting 8% this year. So, people feel it. They feel it with their paychecks. They feel it with the hospitalizations. So I think that AMLO really needs to turn a page here. Definitely, I would tell you that BLOOMBERG being a Mexican-founded bank, I can tell you on the ground that Mexican businessmen and elite are very, very discontented with the president's management of the crisis and economic management in general. I would say one thing from a market's perspective, though, Bonnie, most of Mexico's debt is long-term and in local currency. So we don't see any, real risk to MA bonos or any defaults on the sovereign horizon. So we do like some investment opportunities in Mexico. If, in fact, we do get a V-shaped recovery in the U.S., that's going to be a net positive as well for Mexico.
Kathryn, thank you for all of the context. Kathryn Rooney Vera of BLOOMBERG, thank you.